Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm here with my horse Cricket. Cricket's had a few weeks off and I've noticed that his hind end has gotten a little bit weaker and it's made it a lot harder for him to really sit into the canter and carry a nice 3-beat gait. So for Cricket, who is a standardbred, it's taken some time to build the mechanics and the muscle memory for him to know how to canter, but on top of that, he also has to have the actual physical strength necessary to sit back and carry himself. I've been working on just some general conditioning. You almost can think of this as like strength training exercises to build strength and increase coordination with his hind end so that he's more comfortable cantering. As a note, I'll be demonstrating these mostly under saddle, but for a horse that's particularly weak or struggling, you might even want to try doing this without a rider on their back to see if they can work it out on their own without having to balance you at the same time. So we'll get Cricket tacked up and I'll show you some of my favorite exercises.
One of my favorite exercises is incorporating trot poles. I set these up by spacing them out 4.5 of my own human feet apart. Looks like this. I wear size 9 shoes for reference, but honestly, you may have to tweak this depending on the size of your horse and the size of their stride. And then, because Cricket can be a little bit suspicious of poles the first time he sees them, so I will actually walk him through these several times before I attempt to trot him through, and I think that's generally a good way to introduce a horse. And then when I do trot through, I'll trot him through on a very light contact. Cricket has done trot poles quite a lot, and so I think for a horse I was introducing for the very first time, I would probably not ask them to be in any sort of frame and just trot through the poles, but then as they become a little bit more confident, you can do what I'm doing here, which is just asking him to come a little bit rounder and use himself while stepping over the poles. Another exercise I like to incorporate is lateral work. Similar to the trot poles, I'll start out doing it at the walk, and a lot of times I'm just doing leg yielding, which is really asking the horse to step underneath of themselves and across, especially with that back hind leg, and I find it's a really good way to kind of strengthen. And then when I feel like he's doing it confidently at the walk, I'll go ahead and do it at the trot. And you can even see here, Cricket is a little bit weaker, like I said, so he's not crossing over so much, or at least not as much as I would like him to do, and that's okay. We'll just take what he'll give us for now. In these clips, I'm only leg yielding, but I also like to incorporate some haunches in, shoulder fore, just some more advanced lateral work. Another thing that I found particularly helpful in building strength is doing a lot of transitions. We do a lot of walk, trot, walk transitions. For Cricket, it's really important to make sure that he is forward and in front of my leg, and I try to make sure that he isn't really shuffling into the trot and that it is a crisp transition from walk up to trot. I always ask him to stay engaged through the transition, so I don't want him throwing his head up in the air when I'm asking him to speed up or slow down. And I want to make sure all of the transitions are forward, not just my upward transitions. It seems a little counterintuitive to think of doing your downward transitions as forward, but you want to go straight from an engaged trot into a marching walk. I also try to incorporate transitions within the gait. My favorite way to do this is to extend the trot down the long side of my arena, which isn't really an arena, it's a grass field, but anyways, down the long side of the grass field, and then I collect it on the short side. It's important to make sure Cricket's hind end stays engaged during the small trot, and he still needs to maintain a good connection and balance in the big trot. One thing I found with this type of exercise is it can be really helpful to have someone on the ground who can kind of be your eyes to tell you when your small trot gets a little bit shuffly or if your big trot gets a little out of control. The last transition exercise I do to specifically strengthen for the canter is trot canter transitions. Because I'm doing strength building exercises and not endurance, I don't care how many strides of canter I get. I'm only going for quality. So if I get a good quality transition and only canter for 3 strides, I'm happy and I'll stop there. And in fact, when I think Cricket's a little bit weaker, that's all I do. I ask him for a canter transition, I ask for a few strides of good canter, and then we trot before he starts struggling with the canter. Maybe on one day we only get 3 or 4 strides, and that's okay, but the goal is to keep building that up over time until we're starting to do longer stretches of quality canter. Up till this point, all of the exercises I've discussed can be done in the ring. However, It's really useful for your horse to work outside of a riding arena without manicured footing. One of the best ways to build strength for your horse, especially in their hind end, is to go out hacking over hills. Even if you're looking at my property here, it's not terribly hilly, but even just working in the undulating terrain of the lumps and bumps of the natural land can really help your horse build some strength. If your horse isn't conditioned to working outside of the arena, you might need to take it slow with them because it actually is very taxing on their muscles to have to really carry themselves and think about where they're putting their feet. So for your horse, working outside of the arena can be as simple as hacking up and down hills, or you can do what I'm doing and take these exercises out to the field and work on them there.
So thanks for watching. We hope you found this video helpful. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel. Thanks for watching.